And now I'm very happy to have on the phone with me James Taylor himself, who's here in Athens performing, as I said before, at the Half Note Jazz Club to talk to us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Welcome back to Athens.
So yeah, it's nice to be here. Beautiful.
You're enjoying the sunshine, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. It's a nice change.
Well, the James Taylor Quartet recently celebrated its own 25th anniversary, and since they say that bands are like a marriage, what would you say at your wedding anniversary speech about the last 25 years of your musical and professional relationship?
Well, if it's like a marriage, then it's been quite a stormy marriage. But it's okay. It's more like bands are more like wine. You know, as they mature, then they get better. So 25 years on, and the band sounds better than it's ever sounded. So we're having a good time, playing quite a few shows around the world. But the lineup changes quite often anyway. It's quite a flexible lineup. I have 3 different guitarists that come and go, several different drummers. You know, so it's really just me and some of London's best musicians. That's more how I run the band.
And in the 90s, you veered away from jazz funk and became part of the creation of the soul and acid jazz music movement. How would you describe the sound that you play today? Because you've apparently gone back to your original style, but I'm sure there are some differences as well.
Yeah, I mean, really we encompass an extremely broad range of everything we listen to is in the melting pot. So from pop and soul through to rock and Latin music, funk, you know, even classical music, everything that we think that we can do something with, we kind of get inspired by, and then we want to play. But the main thing that we want to do is we want to generate some strong connection between the musicians and the audience. So we try to play with an intensity and a passion that can engage an audience and bring an audience in, because unless that's happening, then, you know, it's hard to make something really happen on stage, like really exciting. It's about really engaging the audience, and that's a hard thing to do because every audience is different. So and after you do it for 25 years, you start to learn what you can do, what will work, what won't work, and you get better at your job, basically.
So, do you prefer playing live or recording?
I like both, actually. The good thing about playing in Athens is the audience are very musical. They're very interested in having a good time. The Athens people seem to know how to enjoy themselves when there's live music. So they stimulate the band. They stimulate the musicians to dig deeper and go further. And so then we get kind of really spectacular results when we play in Athens. And that's an exciting thing. Recording is equally exciting, but in a different way. I don't prefer one or the other. They're both good.
What are you actually playing right now at the Half Note Jazz Club for the Athenian audience?
Oh, just anything and everything that we've done in the last 25 years, songs that we've written just in the last week. We ask the audience what they want to hear, and they request favorites. There's one tune that was popular for us in Athens called Indian Summer, which we never really played, and they always ask for us to play this tune. So now we started playing this tune. But whatever comes to mind, I mean, we have a huge repertoire of 400 songs. So we don't write a set list. We walk on stage and start playing, and then we're looking at the audience and we think, what would be good for the next song? And if we can't work out what would be good for the next song, we talk to the audience and ask them. You know, so it's quite sort of flexible, and we're able to respond to the crowd. But also we have a desire to really move the audience. So we have our demands that we make upon the audience as well. It's an interesting thing if to come and watch what we do is quite different from what most bands do. It's much more punk rock, It's like a bit of punk rock because it has a real excitement, adrenaline to it.
And you're highly recognized internationally for playing the Hammond organ. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you started playing the Hammond organ and what, for you as a musician, what playing this instrument is like?
Well, the Hammond is a church instrument, It's like a pipe organ from a church. But it has a kind of, because it's an electric instrument, it's distorted, and it has a kind of warmth to it that you don't get from a church organ, and it becomes really quite funky and jazzy. It's a beautiful sound, and it's a sound that people relate to immediately for some reason. So it's also extremely orchestral and very big, so that you can be just three of you on stage, but sounds huge. So it offers a lot, the Hammond organ. When I started playing it like 30 years ago, it was very unfashionable and people weren't interested, but it became fashionable again. People like it. You hear it every day now on the radio, on the television. You hear that sound a lot. So I'm really proud to be, one of the world's Hammond players, and to be recognized as such. I'm very pleased that instrument is loved again, and I've been part of making it like that.
How did you actually go towards it? I mean, what drew you to it to begin with, when it was, as you say, quite unusual?
Yeah, it was dead. It was completely dead because it had been used in a bad way. But in the 1960s, there were some fantastic English bands that were using that instrument really well. One of the band was called the Small Faces, and this was a big band for me. I was very fond of this band, and I discovered what instruments they use, and I found out all about this instrument, the Hammond organ. It has a speaker system. The speakers spin round, they rotate. It's very interesting. It's kind of three-dimensional sound. And I just became obsessed with this when I was 14 years old. And I got a job washing dishes in a restaurant to earn money to buy a second-hand Hammond organ. And I decided this is what I want to do with my life. This is. I couldn't imagine anything better than spending my life, touring the world, headlining jazz festivals and all over the place, playing this instrument. That's what I wanted to do. And now I'm 46 years old, and that is exactly what I've been doing for the last 30 years.
And this is going to be one of those maybe perhaps a little bit annoying questions that journalists ask. What's the most personal song you've ever written, and why is it so personal to you?
Personal? They're all very personal. But I'm actually a very I'm very passionate about my home and about my hometown in England. It's a little town called Rochester, which is the home of where Charles Dickens lived. And so I quite often write music about different parts of my hometown and about the feeling there. When it rains a lot there. It's always raining there, which I find it quite beautiful in a strange way. And I write about the rain, and so there's various tunes that I've written which relate to my home, my family, and the things that I love, that I value, to do with my hometown. And I guess that's the most deeply personal, because I think the life of a musician is a life on the road. You live like a nomad, like a refugee. You're always moving on. You're always with a suitcase. So home becomes incredibly important, and you miss it, and you want to be part of that, but you want to get out there and play. So, yeah, that's the most personal aspects of what I do when I perform.
As I mentioned earlier, in the 90s, you sort of went in quite a different direction with acid jazz and soul. Do you see that happening again, to you going in a very new direction? Is there some kind of music that inspires you that you haven't quite tried out yet?
Well, it's all in there, I think. But The one thing that we haven't really tried out, jazz.
Pure jazz.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we always want to make the audience dance and stuff like that, but what increasingly happens is we get more and more interested in harmony, melody, and complex kind of compositions. And if you sit back and look at it, well, that's basically jazz music. So, if anything, things get purer. Yeah, but for the same token, I still love, really simple kind of blues pieces, and it's whatever pulls at your heartstrings, or whatever excites you and wakes you up, whatever moves you and therefore an audience. I don't care what it is, what style it is. If it works, it works, and that's, for me as a band leader, that's all I'm interested in. If it's something that's strong, stands up on stage and makes an audience kind of scream their heads off and jump up and down, then I'm interested. I can use that, because it's hard to connect with an audience. It's quite easy, and you see this quite often, especially with jazz bands. Play for a whole hour, and you get the sense that nothing happens. It was all very polite, very safe and conservative, and
intellectual.
Yeah, very intellectual, extremely dull if it's too intellectual. It's a kind of a snobbishness connected to that. That's big in England. So the whole thing is to smash all of that up and kind of really, really get honest about things. And that's hard. That's hard to do, because every musician wants to feel safe, you see. So you can make things intellectual. You can pretend that you're so clever, and kind of put a bit of fog around themselves and around the audience. But that becomes very dull. So it's about trying to make it alive. And yeah, that's what we do. That's what I try to do. It's hard though.
Well, as we are all aware of, unfortunately, unless one lives in their dream world, the world is in a financial crisis, and in Greece it's especially the case.
Yeah.
And it's the new year as well. So, what's your feeling of hope, and what's your biggest wish for the new year?
Oh, I hope people stop being so concerned about money all the time. It makes everyone so miserable. And it's so boring, because life is short. It's incredibly short. And you can't take any of your money with you when you go. So I say, remember that we're very lucky to be alive, and we need to enjoy it. And I think that's where music comes in, partly. But that's kind of my feelings about all of that. Maybe all of this recession and stuff will change things a lot for the better. But because people have been very, very... In England, all people think about is money. That's what they think about. That's all they think about, and they are miserable. So maybe the recession will make them value their lives in a different way and make them happier.
Do you think that by now young musicians are aiming at the money rather than the money and fame, rather than the creating something new within themselves and outside of them through music? That's going to be there to some extent, but it won't get them very far. If you want to become a musician to make money, then I don't know, you're going to come off the rails pretty quickly. Maybe you just want a very short career, maybe 2 years, and you make millions of pounds, and then you go and do something else. That can happen, but that's not what it's about. And that's see, my thing was, well, I just want to play. I just want the oxygen for my music, and that's the important thing. Okay, so I got to do a record contract. I got to make records. I got to do this, and this, and then that means that I can play. So the bottom line is the music. If you keep the music in focus as the most important thing and be guided by that, then you'll be okay. But if you do anything else, if you make the bottom line the money, well, that's not going to work. Maybe you'll make money, but I mean, and then what? I don't know. That doesn't make much sense to me. You can buy yourself a lovely gravestone.
Yeah, you could buy yourself a lovely car or something. Maybe you want to buy something. I don't know. But none of that stuff is as exciting or as interesting as kind of playing and doing the real thing, So that becomes secondary, really.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us on RFM, and we really look forward to coming to see you in the next few days.
Fantastic.
I hope you enjoy your time here as well.
We are. I see. the most beautiful city I've been to in so long, and especially with the sun shining. It's a huge privilege to be here.